Board of Trustees, board meeting to order. Ms. Markowski, if you could note that all board members are present, and please stand to say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since we have no board salutes this evening, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda, and I would like to make that motion to approve. Board, do I have a second?
Go for it.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Is there any discussion about that? All righty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. Next would be the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Board, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the meetings from previous meetings minutes as submitted.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Hutchinson.
thought I had that, man.
You were close. That was
I
good.
was.
Might have a
Natalie
second.
distracted me.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Appreciate that. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Kevin.
Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okey dokey. Keep on moving. We have no public comments. Now we'll move on to the major funds monitoring report. Laura Hubinger, please.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope all is well. This particular report, as you know, as we've developed our learning lessons through the budget process and establishing the cost reduction plan and monitoring the 5 major funds that are directly dealt with during the budget season. So these are your 5 major funds, so monthly you will get this cash balance, but I am pointing out significant items on here so you can kind of track how the numbers are coming together for this process that will give you a direct reflection of the hard decisions that you've had to make over the course of the last couple of years. So as you can see, our education fund, now remember, we're still operating with TAW cash in bank with us, and one of our goals is to get our funds in a healthy situation where we no longer have to do that. So our education fund ends with a balance of $7.451 million. And inside there, again, cash still is available from the TAW. And that was to front load the first of the year to handle our first payroll. Okay? In our operations fund, we have a ending balance for February 28th at $6.7 million. Our debt service has a cash balance of a $4.497 million. Our pension debt, remember, that was a correction that had to be made where we pulled debt in to the right timing for the time that we do levy. So I levy and pay in the same year. So the year that I make the payment, I levy for that in the same year. I do not hold on and forward pay. And in the rainy day, you are at $2.99 million. Remember, once we finish the year, we have set goals to work towards over these next couple of years of obtaining a 10% cash balance in these major funds, in the first two, namely the Education Operation Fund. But some of the things that you could note here, this is the kind of report that I would send to a state agency if they wanted to kind of know what our breakdown is. So you can see where we have property tax collections. You see that says 0 all the way across. Those are received in June and December of every year. So when we do the June numbers, which will catch up quickly when I do the budget presentation, what our property tax collection is. Here we have a great tax collection rate, but we do have a circuit breaker impact. So we average between 9 and 15% circuit breaker loss, combined with maybe some property tax that hasn't been paid. I am doing that study, and I'll have that prepared for you during budget season this summer. If there are TIF money that comes in, that is reported under your operations because your education fund does not qualify to receive that money. You also can see that tuition support is under education. That is your state funds that come in. So that is directly impacted by enrollment and that is the only way that we can gain additional funds, is increase enrollment at this time. And if we go down below, you can see how much we spend in salaries and benefits. I kind of break that out for you. These are what we call objects, and those objects of the account number that is put on by Indiana Department of Education and State Board of Accounts to identify in each program how much you're spending for that program. Does that make sense? So when you go back to your budget book that you were given, you will see the program listing and how much we've spent over a course of the years. Then you can flip to another page to say within that program or within that fund, what we specifically spent it on. But this cash monitoring report will be given to you monthly for that. So that's what I have on that monthly report.
Awesome.
The second report is a treasurer's fund cash balance. Hopefully that this interests you. This gives you every fund that the business office is responsible for monitoring. Not without help though, because we do have grant administrators that do take care of a lot of the funds. And this is structured in such a way that you can identify what are your 5 major funds and what are state funds, what are federal funds. And you will see that if you go through here in the red ending cash balances generally tend to mean that federal funds, our grants, we have to have cash in bank because we spend the money based on the authority from that grant. So Dr. Hartledge writes the grant, says what she's going to spend it on. We start spending it, okay? And then we ask for reimbursement. So the timing on those things can show where we will, by the time the grant ends its period, because there's a definite ending period to a grant, that fund ends up with a zero balance and closes out. Okay? Are there any questions on either of these that I can share with you? I just want to point out, because we are in a reimbursable world now, that makes it all more important to have a rainy day established very well, because you want that assurance of that fund to be in the cash balance to carry you when you have those kind of things, because we do have some very large reimbursable grants.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The next item on the agenda would be the consent agenda, and I move that we approve this.
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. We have a second. Is there questions, comments? Anybody have any concerns about that? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes, and we'll move along to Ms. Hutchinson's favorite part of the show. Could we please have you do the gifts to buildings, please?
Absolutely. Money
Thank you.
is my favorite. You see lots of Charlestown High, Charlestown Middle, some Pleasant Ridge, and there's a lot of Charlestown, New Washington there as well. One for Franklin Square from Samtech. And then a couple for Wilson Elementary, Donors Choose, which is always exciting. Our teachers work so hard for that. You can see the top 2 there for Charlestown High and Charlestown Middle School for track and field. And Fun Fitness Friday, Mr. Cook has Fun Fitness Fridays. Oh, he wears like really bright colors and makes the kids cry and puke. It's fantastic. So that'll be really exciting for them. Total this board meeting is $19,303.69. I move that we accept these gifts to buildings as submitted.
Second, please, board.
Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's move right along. Now we're to the fun part, the action items. The first action item would be board policy updates. This would be the second reading.
That's
How
correct.
are you, Ms. Geltmaker?
Good evening. Board, I come to you for approval of board policy updates that I presented for first reading in February. There was one change. It was the addition of policy 8390 to allow for therapy dogs on school property. And this would be in certain circumstances, under certain conditions. It does not apply to students or visitors. And this does align with our expansion of school counseling services in our academies model.
Okay. Board, do I have a motion? Oh,
Mr. President,
yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the proposed new policies and revisions to current policies as presented for the second reading by Ms. Geltman.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any questions?
That was Mr. Paul.
Mr. Paul, I'm sorry, I
It was
couldn't tell.
I know
Yeah.
that's
Jinx.
right. We actually can't tell you.
All right, that's good. Questions or comments? I know Ms. Fitzpatrick's done a lot of reading on the Cliff Notes and whatnot. Everybody okay? Okay, all those in favor of this signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right.
Thank you.
The next one would be the Providence Contract. Not sure who that.
Good evening, Board. I know this is probably a little bit confusing, but as the federal grant administrator, we are identified as the local education agency. In these federal funds, we receive a non-pub equitable share for the non-public schools who are located within our district boundaries. And I have the privilege of managing and executing all of those funds on their behalf. Federal law requires that we do so, which is why there's a Providence contract here. So I am bringing that to you for your approval, and then it will be executed, and we will receive an invoice once the work is complete, and we are the keepers of those funds, so we will pay it out. So having said all that, Title II will be funding this. It is in place for professional development efforts. Providence High School has requested to do professional development work through the company, Catholic School Management. The Providence School Improvement Plan from 2020 to 2023 calls for strengthening in the areas of counseling and learning support services. They will work with this company for consultative guidance. Catholic School Management's work will be secular, neutral, and non-ideological in nature. As the LEA, Greater Clark County Schools must approve this contract, and we will pay for the services out of the non-pub equitable share allocated to Providence upon the completion of this work. And it has also, I previously approved this contract with the Department of Ed.
Awesome. Board, do I have a motion for the Providence contract?
Mr. Superintendent, excuse me, I couldn't get it out. Mr. Board President,
We're all struggling.
I move that we approve the contract with Providence High School for the, whatever,
Providence
Title
High- Title II.
Whatever we were just talking about.
Catholic
Thank
School
you.
Management.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Perkins.
you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Easy for you to say.
Any question, comments?
I have a question.
Please.
I know we're the LEA and, been there, done that. But have we approved contracts before?
This is fairly new.
Okay.
We received a memo in actually spring of or late summer, I think, 2018. I worked with April and and so we no longer can just pay like for contracted services and things like that. So yes, this is all changes. They believe that if we are truly overseeing the work, that this money has to be secular, and in order for us to make certain that it is used in the way it needs to be used, that it has to go through all of these steps. For example, now that we actually have to hire employees that are our Greater Clark employees, but they are working in Sacred Heart or St. John Paul, which is part of the discussion that came up last week on Friday, that we hire people to work in those schools.
Right.
And in order for us to make sure that we are matching all of the requirements, I have to be involved to this level, as does the board.
So let's say that one of our schools, Sacred Heart, decides they want to buy a book for a book study, and they want to use these monies because it's professional development. You have to approve that now?
And I have to order it and receive it, and I have to inventory it. So when our auditors come, because this is our money that we're in charge of, so yes, there's, Mark knows that it's been quite challenging to do
I
all
would
of
say
that.
so. I would say so.
But yes, all of those things have to occur.
Okay.
Busy hands are
Big
happy
change.
hands.
Big change.
Any other comments, concerns? All those in favor of the Providence High School grant signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. The Rhonda Ruse Consulting, Dr. Hartley, thank you.
Yes, Board, you know that many of our schools have done some consultative work with Dr. Rhonda Rose. Over the past few years, she's been highly involved in our SIG grants, and she is actually getting ready to have a book published. And she reached out to us. She is putting together a cohort of leaders to work in this Leadership Academy. And so Ms. Wesley and Ms. Bauer will be participating in this work. And this is will be provided with Federal Title II grant funding, and it's a consulting fee for 10 months of consultation focusing on the 5 essential leadership actions and the 5 essential leadership skills. She'll be working with them monthly on a virtual platform, making some networking with other district leaders. There will be a 1-hour monthly personal session. There will be an in-person meeting. They'll receive a copy of this book throughout the book study, and any additional assistance or communication throughout to help utilize this as a tool to meet our district goals and better support our initiatives. And again, they will be paid out of Title II federal funds.
All right, sounds good to me. Board, do I have a motion to approve this?
I move that we approve the consulting fees, 10 months of consulting, focus on the 5 essential leadership actions of the 5 essential leadership skills by Rhonda Ruse.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Questions or comments, concerns? A lot of love to Dr. Hartledge. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okey dokey, let's keep moving right along. We are now with Dr. Kimberly Hartledge for the high school English Language Arts textbook adoptions, grades 6 through 12, social studies textbook adoption as well.
Yes, Board, please find attached the recommendation for the English Language Arts and Social Studies textbooks that have been selected for adoption for the next cycle. The English Language Arts textbooks will be utilized for the years 2021 through 2026. Last year, we adopted our elementary reading series, and the secondary schools were patient enough to continue to utilize their existing textbooks for another year, which helped us with some cash flow. And so we are now adopting that, and they'll be using it for the next 5 years. The social studies will be used for 2021 through 2027 through the regular 6-year cycle. So now we will be back on track for that, in alignment with how the publishers publish the new textbooks and so forth. Language arts teachers reviewed potential offerings. In the adoption process, each teacher was asked to select a first and second choice, and then the building determined a winner from those votes. Each school vote was counted and determined a corporation selection. These expenses will be offset with the CARES Act 2 federal grant funding, and therefore we do not anticipate any increases in textbook rental fees. We will be using a blended model with this adoption that will allow for both a classroom set of hardback books to be purchased, and each student will receive electronic access to the books and all resources.
Cool. Well, Board, I move that we approve the textbook selection for the high school English Language Arts courses as well as 6 through 12 social studies. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or comments or concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okey dokey. Thank you
And
very much.
I did want to add, too,
Sure.
there's one last textbook selection that will be coming, which is World Languages, and we'll bring that to you in May. They were finalizing their final decisions.
Thank you, Dr. Hartley, very much. The next item up would be our contract bus driver bids. Dr. Shank, how are you this evening?
Good,
to
thank
see
you.
Good
Good
to
evening,
see you.
Board. So what we have here is the process. As a reminder, we've had a 4-year contract that was extended for 2 separate years. Last year, in the midst of COVID, we extended all of those routes. So putting all of those routes out for bid, that's why you see the new route numbers as proposed. You see letters and a few numbers as well. Because we did eliminate and absorb some routes through this process, we do this as just a standard mode of operation. We will number these, and they'll become very familiar with the way that we're numbering those currently in Charlestown and New Wash. But what we have here tonight is a recommendation to approve the contractor bids as proposed, and upon approval, I will create, using the state standard form, I'll create the bus contracts, let Mrs. Gilmaker review those, and then bring those at a subsequent meeting for board approval.
Board, do I have a motion to approve the 2021-2030 bus contract bids?
I move that we accept the contract bids.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Questions for Dr. Shank, concerns?
Do we have I know on some projects where we bid out, we'll have a bid tabulation. Did you create a bid tabulation on this one to come up with these, who was where in the bid process?
Yes, I do. I have all those documents and then the way that this worked is anyone who bid on a specific route then went back into the board conference room and we began that reverse bidding auction. So
Okay.
If you bid on a route, then we recorded that, and then we went in and got to the amount that we decided would be best for the district.
Okay, thank you.
I've called for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Before moving on, I'll introduce, we have one new bus contractor, and he's the only one in attendance of our contractors, and that's Incandescent Transportation Solutions, Mr. Terrence Spencer.
How are you?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you helping us out. The next item we have, is this Dr. Shank as well?
Yes.
NES Oak Ridge Drive easement.
So some time ago, we were approached by the Clover Development Group. If you're familiar with the 12 acres that was for sale adjacent to North Haven Elementary School right off of 10th Street, we knew that property had been for sale for a while. We were pleased to see upon being contacted what that is set to become. That is set to become a 119 market rate senior 55 and over senior living apartment complex. In doing so, I think the development company reached out to us with the inquiry and desire to have us grant easement. Oak Ridge Drive is actually a school corporation owned roadway. It's right between the property that was for sale and the Arby's restaurant right off of 10th. So that is our road to maintain. That is a private drive. In granting this easement and going and having some meetings with the Clover Development Group, they've agreed to extend that lane so that we will not have as much backing up. If you're ever going through that area at about 3:15, you notice 1 or 2 cars back up onto 10th Street in that emergency lane. This, we think, will help alleviate that, and it'll also allow their future senior citizens and senior living residents to use that as a point of turning what would be going north and east onto 10th Street, because they'll be able to use that light that's right there. So I recommend approval of this easement right away. We've talked about the necessities of what that easement language will look like as far as long-term maintenance of that portion of the roadway, and they've agreed. So I don't anticipate any hiccups. We'll send that out to the board for just a review, but upon this approval, I'll have the rights to execute that document, and so they can move forward with their development.
Great, thank you, Dr. Shank. Board, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the contract, or I'm having trouble reading it. We accept the proposal from Clover Development Group for the right-of-way.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Any comments?
Freeman, Mr.
Was that you? You guys are playing tricks on me, man. Mike's your turn. I see how you do now, because I can't see. These glasses, I really can't see. Did we have any questions or comments or concerns? Everybody okay? Yes, Mr. Hawkins, please.
When I looked at the plat on that, I see where they're widening it or where they plan on widening it, but it looked like it curves back in and doesn't extend all the way, the widening doesn't extend all the way to 10th Street. Was there a reason why they didn't do that or couldn't do that?
No, that was the discussion that we had. Essentially, they're wanting to create a lane for us during those times when it bottlenecks.
Okay.
And so we felt like not coming all the way out onto 10th, I think, was more conducive.
Okay.
However, if it, and I don't know, we have a representative here from the Clover Group, but our discussion was to just offset coming off of 10th Street so that
Okay.
they're not going onto the actual roadway itself.
You comfortable with that?
I'm assuming whoever looked at it, there was a reason. I was assuming it may have been road right away from the state. Wouldn't allow
Well, we have
it.
our
I don't
sign
know.
right in that. Our
What's
current
that?
sign is right there as well. The North Haven Elementary sign would be, if they were to extend that lane, we would take out that signage.
Okay.
But if it happens that they back into it or something, we'd be okay with losing that sign. Just saying.
All righty, okay. Any other comments, concerns?
I'm just really pleased with how that's going to be developed. Could have been a nightmare for our kids up there, and who knows?
I think there's a great opportunity. for
It
us
is a
to
great
partner with them,
opportunity.
with our
Partnership.
students in North Haven.
I'm very pleased. Thank you.
All right, well, let's just go ahead and vote on it then. All those in favor of the Oak Ridge Drive easement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's
Thank you, Board.
keep on moving. Next item is the approval contract for the facility management between Greater Clark County Schools Perfections Group, Inc., July 1, 2021 to July 30th, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. President,
you.
respected members of the board. Here we are. At the regular board meeting on March 9th, the selection team presented to the Board of Trustees the Perfection Group as a partner for facilities management for Greater Clark County Schools. The Board of Trustees approved to engage with the Perfection Group to provide these services. Attached in your package was the contract and has been vetted and reviewed by our attorney, Ms. April Geltmaker, the Perfection Group team, myself, and their legal team. We are requesting the board the approval of the 3-year facilities management contract beginning July 1 of 2021 through June 30th of 2024, renewable annually thereafter, the 3rd year, as outlined in the RFP request. It's my recommendation that the board approves this contract this evening.
Board, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I recommend that we vote to approve the contract for facility management between GCCS and Perfection Group.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Second. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Got that right. Comments, concerns, how we feel about it, guys, folks? Everything? Mr. Hawkins, sir.
Just wanted to make one, for the record, I wanted to state that I had some concerns about the scope of the replacement work, the scope of the potential change orders, and the insurance, one of the sentences in the insurance clause. But based on assurances I've received from the administration, I'm going to go ahead and vote yes on this. So,
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I know I had, questions and concerns, and I'd like that to go on record as well, that we would lose employees and all the things that we hear out there, and that's not been the case. That everyone's had an opportunity to continue their employment at their rate and even better. We've got a lot of really good employees that I know are going to make that transition really well, and I think it really needs to be said and emphasized that Perfections has gone above and beyond to help keep our people employed. No one's losing their job, and everybody's going to continue, and if they work hard and like they always do, they'll be fine, and I'm really excited about it. So that being said, all those in favor of passing this contract with facility management between Greater Clark County Schools and Perfection Group, please signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much.
I do want to thank the board, and again, this is Tony Apro. He will be one of the representatives that will be in-house. Chris Gunther will also be our daily representative in-house. And Nick Apro is also one of our representatives, so they do come fully vested in with Greater Clark County, so congratulations.
And Chris's mother was a Greater Clark County School employee for years, so.
Many years, yes. I
Yep.
walked the halls when I was little, going in to visit her, and
Yeah.
I mean, she was only a color that.
No. You'd never know she was retired, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, but no, it was a cool thing. That was really good to see. So, there are no public comments, and at this point in time, board comments. Mr. Hawkins, have you, anything good to say, cool to say? Mrs. Hutchinson?
No, good.
No. Mr. Paul?
None.
Mr. Freeman?
None.
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Oh, it's so hard for me not to say anything. Actually, I wanted to thank the Perfection Group because I know this transition time, and it's kind of a long transition because from the beginning, when we've been talking about this until it actually takes place, there have been a lot of changes and a lot of issues, and you all have been able to jump right in. So it's much appreciated.
I have something.
Please.
And this is basically for Dr. Hartledge. Would it be possible on these PD contracts like Rhonda's, that we have a summary report on how it went, those kind of things when that contract is through, or even some participants give us some input on what they got out of it? And, I'm sure Rhonda wouldn't mind coming by either and giving us an update, not just on that, not the Providence one. I don't want to do that one, but the ones that are actually working with our employees, our teachers, our administrators. Just a quick update.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to thank Keith and Ms. Perkins and Mr. Loeffner for going to that joint legislative meeting and talking school and sometimes with people that don't really know exactly what's going on with school and haven't really dug in. And I'm not saying that anybody's trying to do anything horrible or anything like that, but it was just, I felt really well represented as a school corporation and where we're trying to go and where we think it's the best thing for all kids in Southern Indiana. And so I feel really good about that. So thank you all very much. Mr. Loeffner?
Just a couple things. On the COVID front, we're doing well there. We've had a few new positive cases, but not many. It's really settled down a great deal in terms of positive cases and students being quarantined. So we're trending in the right direction there for sure. Wanted to thank Clark Memorial Hospital, who volunteered to do a vaccination site clinic at the Fetter Center yesterday and then tomorrow for our staff and families that wanted to get vaccinated. I think by the end of the day, Wednesday evening, we'll have probably a little over 200 staff and family members that will be vaccinated through that at the Fetter Center. And then they'll come back in 21 days or 3 weeks to get the second shot. So it was the Pfizer shot. Mm-hmm. So we're thankful that Clark Memorial was willing to do that. And also, I'm really looking forward to our partnership with Perfections. I think it'll be a very positive partnership. We've already had a lot of positive things come from it. And so looking forward to that and thank them for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Markowski? Well, this is the time where I'll look forward to. I know. I can say I'm so glad we had this time together.
Can I say one more thing before
Please do.
Ms. Perkins, I misinformed me. When you asked me about the Bridgepoint teachers, do they know where they're going yet? They'll find out Friday of this week in terms of where they're going to be going, which schools. So I wanted to correct that. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I was building it up to a fever pitch.
Laura's got something.
Should we not, they want to put podium, because we'd like to talk about a couple things real quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you, getting in front of a move to adjourn, man. That's the kind of guts and dedication. Getting in front of a move to adjourn. Go right ahead.
I know, I'm sorry for...
No, yeah, I just
wanted to...
We're good, yeah.
Again, thank you all, but then let you all know that we've already got meetings planned, so I know tomorrow, we're meeting with the elementary principals. We're going to go through, everything as far as our plans and the next steps until July 1 and then beyond. Thursday, we are meeting with the secondary principals. And then on Friday, we are meeting with all of the current staff members. We will let them finally have an opportunity to talk and hear our side of the story and how we're going to help them and everything that we're going to do for them. And then that following week, we will have open interviews. Currently, there are some positions too that we're helping out. There's 10 open positions right now that you'll see. Possibly tomorrow, we're going to be having an open job fair in here in this room. Thursday, we will be having an open job fair in this room to help fill those 10 positions and more. So we've already started the ball rolling, and just to let you know that the principals and everybody will be informed starting tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
No worries. Board, do I have a move to adjourn?
Mr. President, I move we adjourn.
Second. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. I appreciate you all coming out tonight.